one thing to like get to the top and to where you play in arenas, but it is a whole nother thing to stay there.
The collaboration, the human contact and creating something together, there's something there that's pretty magical.
Like I got that feeling of like throwing an event and, you know, having people be so stoked, and there was still 70 people waiting in line to get in at 3 a.m. And I come from an era that if you got corporate sponsorship, you're done. Your fans hate you. And that is not what happened when we announced it.
Do you think all age shows are going to be key for the next generation?
Nice. You know, like, God, I just am glad it makes you feel something.
About 80% of the people we've had in here have mentioned you directly or indirectly, and it's always been a really positive comment. And it really seems like you're the guy. Everyone said that he's the guy when it comes to music promotion in town. And why do you think what you do is so important to so many artists in town as well as the fans?
I mean, well, one, I think that I'm not that. I think that there's a lot of great people doing work here in town as well. J-Max Productions does a lot of fantastic shows. And they bring tons of international and national talent through here. I think I've just been doing it for a really long time. I just care, and I try and pay like attention the best I can to what's on the rider, and trying to pair things with, you know, good acts with good support acts that are local. I also, especially over the last few years, started really kind of collaborating a lot more with people. Up until about 2019, I was pretty insular as far as like I worked with my crew. I didn't do a lot of collaborations. And after I went through this, you know, pretty harrowing time with a lot of trauma with losing my parents and my sister and all this stuff that I wouldn't have been able to get through if it wasn't for so much collaboration and like working with people and support, I had this little epiphany where I just thought, I'm like, well, if I'm doing this with my personal family life, and why am I not collaborating more with people in my business life? And ever since I did that, it's been just so much more rewarding. I like to so much more be part of a team to do something as opposed to doing it just myself.
Yeah. And you think that really comes through for the artists? They probably reciprocate that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think, you know, things have changed for me a lot too. When I first started, I was just being a concert promoter where I was renting the venue, paying the bands, doing all the marketing, handling everything internally. And starting around 2015, I started making relationships with venues where I would be a talent buyer for them. So instead of me taking all the risk and handling everything, I procured the act for the venues, and then I basically let them, you know, run the door, dictate the show. We still helped out. We still supplemented marketing. We would, you know, make sure that as much as we could be at the show. But it just, you know, as I got older, you know, my priorities shifted as far as like, this is a 24-hour town. Shows going till, you know, having to be in a venue till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just not conducive to my health, lifestyle, you know, any of those things. So I've changed over the years, and I've had to like change my business model. But one of the things that it also has done is it has elevated other people to make decisions. So I've kind of gotten myself out of the way, and I've empowered people to make those support decisions on who's going to be better to like work with these artists. Because if I'm not out until these clubs and shows until 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not hearing as many people. So I am not quite as clued in as far as like who would be best with some of these artists that I bring into town.
Reno is a 24-hour town, but it seems like it's only a 24-hour town from Thursday night to Monday.
Yeah.
It used to be a full-time 24-hour town. It's definitely changed, especially since COVID.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what I've heard. You know, I've been here since 2006, and even when I moved down here in 2006, you still had that 24-hour aspect, but I would still people, it's like, this is still kind of a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday kind of town. There was raging going on and partying and things open and stuff like that. I also had a little, I don't know if it was me that thought this, but I was talking with people, you know, when they had that Millennium Scholarship, that they got the payouts from the tobacco companies, and so they were giving people free scholarships to Nevada universities. And I kind of wonder if I think, I don't, this is completely a theory, that perhaps, when that ran out, the students changed that came to town. So they might have become a little bit more serious, as opposed to just getting like they had things paid for. So they're like, oh, well, I get to go to college because I have this grant, the scholarship. And so it's maybe changed the demographic of the people coming to Reno and UNR, because the college kids are a big part of the entertainment here.
Interesting. I'm actually unaware of that, of the
Millennium Scholarship. Yeah. It was when we settled with tobacco for smoking. And yeah, so Nevada put it all into education. And so I think it was something like if you had a 2.0 or more, you could get a free ride.
That'll bring people.
100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And so I know that, UNR has increased their requirements and whatnot. But yeah, I also just think that post-COVID, we are just seeing changing interests. There's not this like drive to go out 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week, 5 times, 10 times a month. People learned after COVID that it's okay to stay home.
Right.
They also, some of them got into gaming. Some of them got into making bread. Some of them got into,
podcasting,
or gardening or things like that. I think there was just that little bit of it's just not as big. There's not that FOMO quite as much as there used to be.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, because I'm Reno, born and raised, but I got, into the music scene here specifically a little bit later. And you've been here since 2006.
Yep.
And then you were in Tahoe a 4 years?
2000 to 2006 in Tahoe.
Okay. So you've been in Northern Nevada since 2000. What have you seen change with the Reno music scenes when you first got here? What was it compared to what you had heard stories like in the 90s, 80s? And then what have you seen going, even before COVID, throughout the 2010s?
That's a long question. So when I first moved to Tahoe, I admittedly, like many people up there, had this perception that they called it Drano and stuff, that it was this, that's where you went to Trader Joe's and got your oil changed kind of thing. But then as so my perception of it was, not, I don't know, kind of like I wasn't clued into the like archaic and like some of the like hardcore and the punk and the rave scenes so much that were underground and strong. But I started coming down here because I've loved electronic music since the early 90s. And so I started kind of attending those. I started going to UNR. And then I decided I just wanted to move to a city. I just wanted to be out of Tahoe, and I wanted to come down just to, go to a movie theater with more than one movie and have restaurant options and be able to go to a comedy show and theater and a metal show and an electronic music show. But when I first moved down here, it was, as far as just with electronic music goes, it was very all ages rave focused. There were these great parties at the skate park and all different kinds of places. And then we kind of like brought in just that more adult underground, a lot of like the West Coast based music. So I remember in like 08, 07, I believe, we threw this drum dance didgeridoo after party. And at that time, it ended up being like the largest 21 and up electronic music show in Reno history, which was like 600 people or 700 people at the underground. And so that was kind of the thing that we pushed that scene a lot more, as far as like some house and some of this like West Coast bass music, and kind of pivoted away from the rave stuff and the all ages stuff, kind of just did a lot more 21 and up. I remember too, there was a lot of pushback from venues because we wanted to make our shows non-smoking. And they would like push back, being like, we can't do that. And we're like, well, then we'll just not do a show here. That's fine, And over the years, I would say like we had that, and this was across the United States, Canada. It was that 08, 09, 2010, that dubstep explosion that hit. That was pretty, that I wish something like that could happen again, but I don't know if it will.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was my college years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like work at that time, like that place was probably open 5-6 nights a week, and it was packed of just people raging to dubstep.
Right.
It's just such a new, exciting sound. It filled rooms. Yeah. And it was just like something people hadn't experienced before. And that combined with marketing was just like, it was huge. And so, I think, what I've also seen is shows have been like going earlier, as far as like starting to put the headliners on at a more reasonable time. Cause it shows like that. And back in those days, we would put the headliner on at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And that won't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think part of it is the more serious students that we have. I think part of it, everybody has aged a little bit. And so I think that, people will go out, but they don't want to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning. Like a larger percentage of the people don't want to stay out that late waiting for a headliner. We also get shows now, that we might get a great show that is in the Bay Area in the weekend. It comes to us on a weekday. So It just makes more sense to like, pivot everything a little bit earlier. The bands usually have to drive. They don't want to go later either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you're mentioning that dubstep movement in the late 2000s? Do you think that maybe we need a movement or a splash like that again in order to get post-COVID music back on track?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I would love, even if it didn't get back to where it was before. I didn't like it, but I really loved just the shake up. I'm a rabble rouser, so I enjoy anything that people were like. I mean, that was music where people would come to me and be like, "I want my money back. I hate this," and I'm like, "Nice," like, God, I just am glad it makes you feel something, even though it might be anger. I'm just glad you're feeling something right now, No, I would love a giant shake up, thing like that again.
Yeah. Yeah. And along those lines, because you're mentioning like putting the headliner on a little bit earlier because, people don't want to stay out that late, or people have aged, or they got work, or whatever it is. It's like, well, okay, for the next generation or people coming up, number one, what have you seen as far as the shift with younger generations and getting them to see live music? And then number two, how can we get them, to come see shows?
Well, they drink less, which there's a lot of reasons, theories on why that is. I think part of it is everyone's got a camera in their hand now, and nobody wants to end up a meme or whatever online. They also have seen their parents be drunks and don't want to be like that. There's also a lot of information out there about the dangers of alcohol. And they're smart. So it's like they are intelligent and they want community, but they don't necessarily need to go into this paradigm that existed before them. Because you're seeing a lot right now with like also a shift in music festivals, and these like large camping music festivals are experiencing a big change right now. I think a lot of it too, it's like the cost just to live these days, is so much more. And if you're struggling to pay rent, you might pick that like $80 show that is your favorite band in the world over taking a risk on a $10 to $15, $20 show a few times a week. So I think, I wish if I had the answer on what I think would change that, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I know when Brian was talking about here that there is a shift to earlier stuff, daytime things, more, ways that you can interact, and create more connection. I work with a couple big music festivals and we create platforms for fans to get involved. And I think that's another thing that we could possibly do as promoters and talent buyers, is figure out some other ways to get people to build connection and community besides just, drinking and hanging out in a nightclub until, late.
Right.
I went last year at the Pink Party, which is an annual event I'm part of. We did a full hour and a half of crafting where we set up all this stuff and people could come in and make their own gear as a way to just for people to connect and laugh and have a good time. And then they walk away with this thing that they made and they can wear it next year, or, you know, they have it in their room and they're like, oh, I had a great time at the pink party. And it just is like reminders of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not originally from Reno.
Nope.
Like I said, you were in Tahoe for a while and then you moved down here. But what is it about Reno that either made you stick around and then get into this business at all?
Well, I'm a Midwestern boy. And so one of the things Reno has a very kind of Midwestern vibe in some way, as far as the people in the community here. They're generally really nice. I joke that Reno has like an anti-sucking clause. So it's like, it doesn't matter how good of a DJ you are, or chef, or photographer, or whatever. If you suck, people will eventually figure it out, and they're like, bye, they don't want to work with you anymore. Which I appreciate that. I also, you know, when I moved down here, sometimes people will say, oh, you'll never make friends like you did in high school or college or anything like that. And this town has blown that completely out of the water for me. I've met, I mean, just the best people here.
Yeah.
I like the also combination of the Wild West. I'm a little bit of a black sheep. And so, and always have been. And so I like that, like, especially for a long time when people would literally, I'd like be standing in line and going through TSA or start talking to someone and they're like, where are you from? I'm like, Reno. And they're like, on purpose, you know? And I'm like, yeah. And so I love the size. I love the ability to move around here. I know people complain about the traffic, but I find that to be a joke because like the traffic here is easy, breezy, grand scheme of things. I love the 24-hourness of it all. You know, I think it's not something I engage with anymore. But I think that freedom to do so is something that everywhere should have, you know, like everything, all of these things that Reno has, it seems odd to you when you don't live here. Yeah. And then when you get here, you're like, it should be like this everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you can just let it downtown, wherever it is, be what it is, and you can never interact with it, and that's fine.
And why shouldn't a 30-year-old who gets off their swing shift or whatever at 3:00, why shouldn't they be able to go buy a beer and hang out if that's the schedule that works for them?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so I that's one of the things that I appreciate about this area is just that, like, you know, there's that little bit of a live and let live kind of scenario, and I appreciate that.
As a lifelong Reno, I love hearing people's stories of how they ended up here. Because, you know, you ask someone like, why'd you move to LA?
Right.
Same reason you did. Like, we're all here for the same reason. It's like, why'd you move to Reno? How much time do you have?
I know.
That's so true. Yeah.
Everyone's story is so vastly different and exciting.
And after I was going to school here and I was driving back and forth from Tahoe, and eventually I wanted more than the ski town and a tourist town could really offer me. I was tired of listening about snowboarding. No offense to snowboarders out there, but I needed more. Yeah. And so, I decided to come down here, and then I just, you know, through trials and tribulations and hard times and great times and everything, I am still here. And people ask me, like, if there was anywhere in America you could live, where would it be? And I'm like, I'm here. Like, I love it here. The weather and the people and everything is amazing. So.
It's such a great middle ground because there's people like myself that's from a big city who have ended up here and like the small town feel. Yeah. And there's people from deep, middle of nowhere in the Midwest that are now here and getting the city feel. Yeah. And you're both getting something that you need out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because so many people I know that they're like me or they're completely opposite of me, but we both appreciate Reno for what it is.
100%. I mean, I feel like a lot of people out there, granted there are some grave examples, but you can find some common ground with most people that you're going to engage with that are probably friendly. Yeah. You could probably find some common ground on why you love this place.
Yeah. So getting into promoting music, where did that all start?
So back in the kind of, I've always been into music. I've always been the guy that's like recorded mixtapes for people, give them as gifts. I mean, I started really getting into music. I had an older sister and she was into music. So she, we used to like dance to the Grease soundtrack when we were really little and fight over who got to be Danny. And and so she was always a really big inspiration and a really big influence for me. Starting around, I think when I was about 6th grade, she recorded the Repo Man soundtrack, the Violent Femmes' first album, The Talking Heads Remain in Light, and The Modern Lovers. And that kind of like took me away from what was on the radio into what could be and emotion and music that didn't exist in easily digestible and presented mediums. And then that just kind of like built up, and I continued just getting like really involved in, I just love like counterculture kind of music. So I was I still am goth kid, industrial kid, raver, hippie, like I like it all, you know. I and if it's good music, I'm down. If I can feel something for it, like if that music moves me, it doesn't matter what genre it is at all. And so starting like in the late 90s, they started doing a lot of like after parties started becoming like a big thing, especially after Fish concerts. And I used to follow Fish around. And so this big show came to Lake Tahoe. It was Black Alicious, Sound Tribe Sector 9, Ozo Motley, and Carl Denson's Tiny Universe. It was on a Sunday night at the Hyatt. I was like, I'm going to throw an after party. Why not? You know, like that show is going to be over by midnight. It's Nevada. Let's throw an after party right around the corner. And so I decided to do it. I went to this venue. He like totally tried to talk me out of it. He made me put down $170 deposit. And if 70 people didn't show, then I would lose my deposit. So I was like losing my mind. I was so nervous. And, you know, and so it ended up being a massive success. And so it kind of almost as bad that I had a big win as far as attendance. I ended up losing my wallet that night. And so the show ended up being a wash. But I did have like, I got that feeling of like throwing an event and, you know, having people be so stoked. And there was still 70 people waiting in line to get in at 3 a.m.
Wow.
So, and so that just kind of like, I started just throwing shows, kind of formatting music and my shows to be like more like down-tempo hip-hop, trip-hop to start the night out. I would go up to peak breakbeat, kind of like 135 to 140 beats per minute, just a little bit more complex rhythms, and then end the night with house music. And so I kind of just rode that format as far as throwing parties and theme parties and stuff at the beginning. And I think that's pretty common for people that come from like where I do, is to like do the theme parties and things like that. And then I started bringing up performers I liked from the Bay. And then they would tell their friends about these shows that they went to in Tahoe. And sometimes those friends had agents, and then the agent would contact me. And then it kind of just kept growing from there. And and so I always say too, it kind of stopped about being 100% about what I loved in around 2009 or 10. Once EDM was starting to really hit this kind of like, you know, really crazy spike in popularity. And I generally think too, it's like, even though it may not have been music that I necessarily like, you know, loved, an old coworker of mine, Daisha Taylor, said, everyone deserves to be entertained. And it's so true. It doesn't matter what genre of music they like. They deserve good sound, a safe place, you know, and a good spot to enjoy music that they love. And like, why should I not produce that, even if it's not something that I love? If it's not, then it allows me to just concentrate on the quality of the show and making sure the show happens best as possible.
It sounds like Joel and I are right where you are right now when you were throwing your first after party. We just announced we're throwing our first Reno Live event.
Awesome.
Something that we have been talking about for a long time, and we just didn't really know how to go about it.
Sure.
And it started to come into play once we started bringing people onto this podcast.
Awesome.
In fact, I wanted to mention, you were talking about collaboration earlier. That's been a pivotal thing for us, where when we started Reno Live a couple of years ago, we were just posting online. We were collecting, like researching all the venues, collecting all the shows and putting that into a social media post, faceless social media post.
Right. Yeah.
It did okay. Like people would share it and people would interact with it, but we wouldn't get any energy back from it. Right. There was no real interaction.
Right. Yeah.
And so we we burnt out. We were talking about burnout on our call earlier, and that really burnt us out. And then we started bringing people in and talk, and immediately it's just like we are so energized,
right? Yeah,
and
it's like we should have been doing this all along.
The collaboration, the human contact, and creating something together. There's something there that's pretty magical.
Oh yeah, because we're pack tribal animals. Like this is what we this is how we exist as human beings.
Right.
And we are not meant to sit behind a computer screen and just post things. We need to interact with humans.
Yeah.
And
I think there's also something, maybe it takes you back to your childhood days, but like throwing a party and people come.
Oh my God.
There's something so thrilling about that. You know?
I still get nervous people aren't going to come, like, all the time. Are you kidding me? I'm so self-conscious about that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't want to ever throw myself a concert birthday party because I'm like, if no one comes, I'd be devastated. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
So looking back to your first after party, what advice can you give us as we start to slowly promote this, staying in the moment, not over anticipating, but we obviously want it to be a success?
Well, I would say don't put in more than you can't lose.
Okay.
So you're not stressed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like, especially if you're first starting out, it's like, but you have other jobs. So it's like, it's not necessarily something that you're going to like have to sell your house if you sell, your show. But generally I feel like, especially when you're starting out, like make sure you have whatever you have that you're going to spend, make sure that isn't going to like make you not be able to pay your rent if you lose it or something like that. Cause you never know what might happen.
Don't put the chips all in.
Right.
As we're getting started.
Yeah. I've done that. It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah.
I think too, I think one of the things that I've always done is just really tried to put the fan experience first, be honest with people. Another thing too was try to, I worked the door for years because I loved seeing everybody come through, And so I always feel like whoever's at that door, whoever that's going to be engaging with it, make sure that they know, like, hey, these are our guests, like these are our friends, quote unquote, that are coming in. So like, be nice to everybody because that person sets the tone for how people are going to feel when they walk in the door.
Something that's been fascinating having artists in is getting different perspectives on the Reno music scene.
Yeah,
because we have our own, and we started Reno Live because we felt like live music needed a bit of a boost, especially post COVID. So we wanted to do what we could. And then there's been people we've had in that have come here for music.
Yeah.
And it got me realizing like, okay, well, maybe Reno's maybe it just isn't a bad music city. And I know it's not a bad music city.
Yeah, it's
but
definitely not.
Like, instead of thinking like, oh, how could Reno be better? Maybe we're just really uniquely positioned. It's a better way to look at it because there is opportunity here and there is a lot of music that happens here.
Yes.
But I don't know. What is your perspective on the Reno music scene at large? Its position in the broader music markets, and then where is it going?
I think it is a great centrally located place, but also we do have a scenario where we are over a mountain pass, and with the rising cost of gas and things like that, I have noticed artists. There's less bus tours in general. So I used to get these big artists coming through and they would have their tour bus and big production and all that stuff. There are way less of those coming to Reno because the agents, they want city money. And we don't have the population to really support city money on the artist guarantees. And then I don't know did the people, when you're saying they come here for music, were they coming here because it was a great place that's cheaper than where they were to tour, as used as like a home base?
There's been a couple different ones.
Well, actually, Brian said that he was staying for music.
Because
he came
of
here
music.
for college.
That's right.
But he's staying now for music.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think I don't want to put words in Brian's mouth.
Of course.
But it could be that because for a little while I was getting, it hasn't happened in a while, but for a good chunk of time, I had people regularly telling me that they did not leave Reno because of the shows that I was producing, because I was bringing the music that they liked that is in the Bay, but they would have to they were going to move to the Bay basically to experience that culture and that community. So it could be that, Brian is able to do his shows here and stuff, but it's also like he loves the music community here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I know he's not trying to be a giant touring DJ and kind of things like that. He's
found family with Biggest Little Tribe.
100%. Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And so, 100. Yeah. And to me that is, yes, it's music, but it's also like community at the greater thing. It's like he found an amazing group of friends. Why would he leave?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the same way, I feel the same exact way. So we do have a hard time keeping venues open here. That's for sure. And I think part of that is that we do have a situation where the casinos they can pay artists huge money to come there that a lot of us independents can't. We just can't take the risks on. Or they have these long-standing relationships with some agents, and the artists know, they're like, well, I'm going to get that casino money, which how can you blame them? It's really hard to be an artist. So I think that to be an independent, I think is depending on what you do, it's a pretty supported town. I mean, I see a lot of great shows still with our local musicians. And so that's really, really cool. And there's a lot of great electronic music shows going on. We don't have the big, there was those base camp festivals back in the day. I don't foresee anything being of scale of that for a little while. I mean, they were trying to get up to 6,000-8,000 people. That is not unheard of, but we don't really have great spaces for that.
What's the realistic highs and lows of the GSR's new proposed arena coming through? Are we going to have more Live Nation acts? Is it going to be good for the city across the board?
I mean, I think every venue pretty much is important, and we don't have a first class venue here like that of that size. So, if those are the kind of those cases too, where I let Live Nation and AEG do those multi-million-dollar shows. I don't know any independents that would even try and step on that, because that show failing, a show like that would fail. It would sink most people that are independents, at least, especially in this area.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can rent the Reno Event Center. I have rented the Reno Event Center, and sometimes it's been great and sometimes it's been not great. But when you lose on a venue like the Reno Event Center, as far as or Lawler, anything big like that, it hurts.
Yeah, sure.
That's can't pay your rent for a while. It hurts, kind of thing. So, I mean, I think that, we just haven't yet, in my opinion, we just are not attractive enough of a city to get these giant entertainment corporations interested to come in and take over, our 500, 1,000 and above venues.
Yeah. So I guess music promoting, just diving into this, especially with our new shows, relatively new for me. I never really saw myself as wanting to kind of even go through that path. It's just kind of Reno Live's just kind of leading us there right now. So I don't really know the ins and outs of it. Was it different? Because I know Lawler back in the day was that was the place. They got all of the nationwide touring acts. Was it run differently with promoters, or is it just the aging of that venue now being over almost 45,
maybe
47 years
I
old?
moved here in 2006, so I missed a lot of that heyday.
Right.
I saw Tool there and I saw Prince there. I think those are the only two.
Right around 2004 to 2006 was when it just dropped, because there was I'm a big do you know setlist.fm?
Yeah,
I'm a big concert statistic
nerd.
Nice.
And
me
too.
Keep track of it. And I mean, everyone came through Lawler during their prime, not just this is a farewell tour. I mean, Beastie Boys, DMC, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, NSYNC, Whitney Houston. It's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but it was in their prime too. And I just wonder, what happened to that too?
I don't know for sure, obviously, but I can theorize maybe the corporatization of live music. So people at that time, Clear Channel, I think, is what became Live Nation. Perhaps, I don't know if this, I don't know. They started buying entire tours.
Okay.
And if Lawler wasn't part of one of the venues that they owned or managed, then they're not going to put it there. Maybe ticket sales weren't like strong enough at a lot of those shows, or maybe the promoter that was doing it decided to move on or do something else or lose. I don't know who was putting those shows on at the time. Right. So I just don't know. But talking to some of my friends who have grown up here that have been in the music scene for a while, they have told me that back in the 90s and early 2000s, you guys got, in 80s, you got tons of shows.
Yeah.
And from what they said is that a lot of what it was when bands would go on national tours, they would hit Denver and then drive across, and a lot of the Pacific Northwest was skipped a lot. And then with the like explosion of grunge and the things of Seattle, more people moving up there, then instead of going west out of Denver or Salt Lake, they go north, and then they hit the Pacific Northwest and come down. And at that point, if it's like Seattle, Portland, Eugene, Bay Area, it's a little out of the way to go hit Reno and then go back to LA.
This hurts as an Alice in Chains fan. This hurts right now.
No, it does make sense. I mean, if Reno was 1 million people, that'd be a lot
100%.
more of a priority to skip over here.
And Nevada got super hard by the recession in 08, and so that might have had something to do with it as well, you know. I don't know. Yeah, because I came down here in 06 and I had my own little weirdo hippie burner scene that I had going on that, like, so I don't know, but I do.
We're also trying to figure out the answers too, and it's starting to kind of seem like it's not one clear thing.
No,
it seems to be a lot of little things adding together, and the world changed, and Reno kind of got left behind a little
100%.
bit in that industry.
Yeah,
and at the same time, in order to get things closer to what they were or improve things, it's also going to be a lot of little things. And that's why we're trying to provide our little piece of the puzzle as much as we can.
We wouldn't do this if we didn't really think if we thought it was completely impossible.
Right. No. And I agree. I don't think it's impossible. I believe that the city is probably going to be as big as Denver in like 20 years or so, and just by sheer population and numbers, you're going to get a larger music scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you can entice these bands or acts to come to town, and, you can pay them close to what they'd make in San Francisco or Sacramento or things like that.
On that topic, and feel free to say as much or as little as you want, or tell me to cut this section out. But as far as the city of Reno goes, how do they view live music here? How much are they invested in it or not? I mean,
from having been involved in Reno Sculpture Fest, I am the entertainment coordinator for Western Lights, and I help with Offbeat Festival, and just kind of seeing it. To me, it seems like they really want it. Like, especially those events, they really want them, but they don't want to really, and this is changing, but for a long time, they didn't want to support them. They loved these like free city events that people would put on, or these festivals or whatnot. And they would offer some like in-kind things, but like, when it came time to like giving money, it just wasn't there. The RSCVA has done some work supporting events and festivals that they think people that will rent rooms, they'll support. Like if people will come to town and actually like they base it on hotel room nights, then you can get some funds from them to use towards marketing. Things are changing. I mean, I'm definitely seeing the city push a lot more to help activate free things downtown with Off the Rails and the Biggest Little Tribes event and House Parties events and all, those things that are happening downtown, which is really awesome. And I'm hoping that they keep seeing the value in those things and investing more into arts and culture and stuff, because I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I'd been like going there my entire life, and they started investing in the art scene back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it paid off in dividends. Like that city is like so vibrant with food, art, culture, music, film, like everything is like just really awesome. But we also don't have state income taxes. We don't have this is such a, our state just doesn't seem to have a lot of money.
Sure.
To be able to just pump out for events and grants and things like that.
For something that's not Vegas.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. It's interesting mentioning Louisville. I don't know.
Louisville.
Sorry. LA boy here. I don't know.
You have to say it like you have marbles in your mouth.
Louisville.
Yes, great job.
There you go. But they invested in the art scene. It seems in a lot of ways, Reno is an art town. I mean, we got Burning Man right outside our borders.
Wait, they should make an event called that. Just kidding. Yes, no, we do. Like, yes, it is.
We take pride in art.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure.
But across the board, I feel like we're not an art. We want to be an art town, but we're like visual art. We do pretty well with. I feel like, but maybe there's a little bit less of a city emphasis on things like live music.
Yeah, and I feel like too, like and it's very nice of them to do this. The casinos have given away so much for free, quote unquote. Like you can go in and get free band or free this, or they have like street fairs and things like that. But it seems like it's not so much like really focusing on bringing in a lot of original things. And so I think that's one of the things I try and do with Western Lights is I don't do cover bands. No one gets repeated over the weekend. Try and make it original music. And you come on Thursday, you're going to see a totally different band and whole different lineup on Saturday.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I think that people in Reno love free. Yeah. They love free. I mean, I'm like, it's mind blowing how the attendance for these free events, and then you put the same music in a venue and ask people to pay $10 and they're like,
we put out a poll on one of our, this was like before we started, a little while ago, just saying just trying to get feedback from the people. And it's like, what do you value most? The genre, the time, the venue, the price?
As far as like information that we would include on our posts.
Yeah, to give to people, like what do they want to know when they're promoting a show? I think it was pretty overwhelmingly price.
Oh, was
price
it really?
Point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a education for us too, because we never included price.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, we did a survey not too long ago for the Afterburn, and I think that this also translates to entertainment is what makes people want to go to something. And it's not the headliner or how much money it is or anything like that. It's, are my friends going?
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to be left out of what the group is doing a lot too. And so that psychologically, and I had this moment where I really realized that I put it all together. I put this show on in South Lake Tahoe called, it was an act called Panty Raid, which is one of the members of the Glitch Mob who I'd been working with since they were babies in the electronic music scene, and this other guy named Marty Party. But then they put together this thing called Panty Raid. So if you were an electronic music fan, you knew that this was the Glitch Mob. And so I sold that show out, it was 1,700 people or whatever it was. And I just remember this kid came up and he goes, "Can I get a ticket to this Panty Raid thing?" And I was like, okay. He was like, "I don't even know what it is. I just, all my friends are going." I was like, oh, wow, you just spent $45 on a show. That was back in 2017 or something. 2013. You just spent $45 on a show that you had no idea what you were going to.
Yeah, that speaks true a lot with the friends.
Yeah,
and I've gone to a lot of shows in San Francisco, and I have stood in line to get a good spot over at the Civic Center. And I'll just it's just, what are you gonna do for 3 hours while you're standing in line? You're gonna be listening to all the people around you, and just the amount of high schoolers that go to shows there, and they're just talking with their friends, and then they're calling them hey, I got a ticket, and they're literally rearranging their entire day for this show. Yeah. And then you come to Reno and they're like, oh, I don't even know Jack White's coming to town.
Yeah, totally.
How is that not buzzing through the air here?
Well, this is where I also kind of get into I come from a different time where I had to call hotlines and call the venues and find out who's coming and stuff. And I'll hear that from people being like, I think it's you did a bad job promoting because I didn't know it was happening. And it's like, well, if you love Jack White, you should probably be following him on his socials or checking his website from time to time. Or if you have a promoter or a venue or something that you like their events, put it in your Google Calendar to like hit you a little reminder to check the website every couple weeks.
Yeah, or follow the Reno Live calendar.
There you go. But when I was in Kentucky, because I was, I was born there, but I didn't spend any of my life there. I found venues that I liked, and that every once in a while I would just go to their website and be like, oh,
yeah,
who is this? Whoa, this sounds like a cool band. And actually, because of that, one of them is playing Offbeat Festival because I loved them so much. And so I feel like people have gotten a little bit like, it's your responsibility to tell me about it, And
that's just a cultural thing.
It is.
I mean, if it's across the board like that, that's just a cultural thing.
Right.
And that we have to just shift that mentality.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to come in and kind of take us by the horns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your philosophy around what you promote and then local artists that you're bringing in from out of town? Is it really a business decision at the end of the day, or is it like, say there's someone locally that wants to work with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, how do you process through that, and what's your philosophy on that?
Well, generally, I have a thing where I don't promote anything that is homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, violent, racist, like nothing that's like not in my I just
morals.
won't. Yeah, I just won't.
Sure.
Yeah, those are my ethics and my values, and I'm not going to like. That's just I don't care. Or even if like the name is terrible. Like I remember somebody asked me to do this dubstep act, and I realized what the name was, and I was like, I can't put my name on that.
Sure.
I just can't do it. And then a lot of it too is just kind of like, I don't know. I sometimes honestly, are people a social media liability?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm not interested. Like I am zero drama. And so like if I see people constantly crying, whining, complaining, talking shit about people online, that's just not somebody that I really want involved in my events. And then otherwise it's as far as getting people involved, sometimes people ask for things and I am able to make that happen for them. Sometimes I like to just surprise them and being like, hey, you love that band. Guess what? I just booked you on their show. And they're like, what? I love surprises. And so I love to do surprises for people. But, and then a lot of times going back to the collaboration thing, I want to ask people, be like, who do you think would be great with this artist? Locally, who do you think would be great? So yeah, that's kind of, that's a little bit. And then as far as like getting the acts to town, it can be a combination of the agent hitting me up because the artist is going on tour. It can be something where I'm trying to fill a date and I reach out to the agent to try and get something booked. It can be a variety of different things because now, especially too, now that I'm talent buying, I'm helping the Alpine and Dead Ringer and Reno Event Center and things like that, try and source events.
Well, I wanted to ask you what your advice to us is, just as someone who, talent buying and promoting.
Yeah.
For us in our position right now, we've been going around and it's been about 50-50, I'd say, about people reaching out to us wanting to be on the podcast, which has been super awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And 50% of us going out, and some of them have just been kind of shots in the dark, and we're like, well, all right, that was cool. But, Reno, obviously we're gonna tap this market, but we want to get people who are coming into town on like a bigger scale. What's your advice to us on just kind of like approaching that and trying to get some bigger artists interested? Like,
well, I feel like, how do you all feel about trying to, do you want to keep things super wide open genre wise, or kind of like, would you like to do something a little bit more narrow and then go from there? It's kind of like the thing of
so
like,
far,
do you start here and go out, or do you go out and come in?
Yeah. So there's kind of two things. One, we want to be pretty broad because our whole mission statement is about live music and trying to be as inclusive of live music as possible. On the other hand, we've had a little bit of a conversation with this, and we actually had a couple of artists mention this as well about like, don't be afraid to be a little bit picky. I mean, even what you were just talking about with obviously you have an ethical standard. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, you want to attach your name to something that you believe in. And so you don't want to have, anybody off the street in here too, so yeah, we want to maintain pretty genre ambiguous, or general. At the same time, we want to, because we're music fans. We actually have pretty different music tastes.
Yeah.
From each other, and we consume music in a different way too. We're just we
and I'm kind of like you. I listen to anything across the board. I'm really more just like if your sound.
Yeah.
If I vibe with your sound,
100%.
Not necessarily just genre.
Yeah. And we've had a collection of different genres in here already, and it's just getting to know the people is the best kind of.
When we had Brian on, that was really refreshing because we had just like J-Rad was country blues, then we had Rhonda country,
Huckleberry Road was
country, and then we had Brian just electronic, and it was just like, whoa, this is refreshing because you really dive deep into this genre now, and that was what was just gave even more energy back.
That reminded me on something I wanted to touch on that we were chatting about before. You're talking about the social aspect of going to a show and are my friends going? I think that's what the EDM scene, if some people, different people have different opinions of that term, I think, but Biggest Little Tribe and these little communities are doing a really good job of building that community feel.
Totally.
And so those genres seem to be thriving very well. And maybe in a different genre there's a very small little niche, but I think that community building of are my friends involved in this and we're all doing this together. We don't know really who it is, but we're all together and experiencing it, and that's the point of it. I think that's what a lot of other genres in town could do a better job of.
Yeah.
That's what I gathered from having Brian in here and talking to him.
Yeah, and booking people, empowering them. I mean, one of the things I've never done, which I know is more popular in other genres, is I've never forced an act to sell tickets for me. I just don't believe in it. I think that they should. I focus on promoting and they focus on making music. And like, do I want you to help me promote the show? Yes, you should. But as far as like that, that's just something I don't do. I can't really, I mean, I don't know. I threw a metal show, Rivers of Nile and Vitriol and Cyanate. And I was like, as I was working the door, I was just like, everyone is so goddamn nice. Everyone's smiling and being like, thank you so much for the show. I'm like, thank you for coming. It was great. I'm not as involved in the kind of minutia and as far as the, I go to all different kinds of shows. I'm a little bit just more connected as far as the movers and shakers and whatnot. And in electronic music, it seems like most of the metal stuff I've done has been either a band I liked or somebody like referred me to their friend's band or, something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, getting, your friends involved, they also put up, art and putting up these, like DJ booths and, things like that. That is, it's getting more people involved in the show. Having themes is another way to get people involved in the show. Maybe somebody that wouldn't come out for this is one of the reasons why themes can be awesome, is that it can get people that would normally not come to see maybe your like niche, nerdy musical taste, but like, you're like, oh, but it's a Christmas party, whatever it is. And they're like, so people come out and they come to that show and it's like, you've now been able to afford this act that you really, really like because you've been able to throw a theme around it. Where if you just put out random UK DJ or something like that, they may not have come. I did that back in the day. I'm a big fan of this old band. I saw them open for 9 Inch Nails in the 90s called Meat Beat Manifesto. And so I was bringing this other big West Coast artist to town up at the Crystal Bay Club. And I was like, I'm going to throw them on it because I wanted to work with them. You know?
Sure.
And so, yeah, getting, but that kind of like theme stuff and building those like special sets and everything like that, it's harder when you're dealing with a live music scenario. Cause like Brian was saying, you don't have changeovers really with electronic music. I also think it's a little bit less of like, and this is, I'm sure there are plenty of people would disagree with me. I'm also older and been, in this for a while. I kind of just feel like, and he was saying this too, the connection happens in between the sets.
Joel and I's ultimate dream would be to have a music venue here someday, but we're, just like we were talking about on our call, you're just go. You're just, and that's like Joel and I's like mentality. Like he's a business owner. He works pretty much 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Actually, that's where I come in, so he doesn't have to work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I just recently started working 7 days a week again. I did that for many years, and we're just, we want to put more time and money into this.
Yeah.
But obviously, everything we talked about, we have to make a living.
Yeah.
And it's not getting any cheaper. But that is the thing about Reno Live is that you can be creative with it, because we want to have a music venue someday, but that's not like necessarily our end goal. And then just like, okay, wash our hand, like we did it, you know? And like, I feel like right now, just it's our main source of content, but I've been like telling my friends and just having them like, just to help support. And then they keep going, oh yeah, on the show, on the podcast. And I was like, Reno Live's not just a podcast. Right? Like, that's not what we want to be known for, just a pod. We have a podcast, but that is what we've been putting the most time into so far. But we have like big ideas.
Sure.
And that's kind of how our brains work. We're just kind of follow where we think is more realistic, but obviously still have those big dreams and goals of like, we'd love to have a venue someday to help us, to drive us to get somewhere.
And what you were just saying too, a lot of even, relatively successful artists are also working full time.
100%. Oh yeah.
Like to be honest, the idea that you can do your art full time as a living, like, is there another time in history? Is there a century in history where that has ever been possible?
Well, I mean, people used to have benefactors and everything back in the day. So yeah, that totally was a thing. You would have these traveling like minstrels, and like they would have benefactors and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think, and honestly, before this time, like governments and things actually like supported the arts. The Roman times, like all of those, like those arts were heavily supported. And I went to school for anthropology, so I love this kind of stuff. But like, that is what what we judge civilizations on, is like, that is a big part of it, is
the art,
their art, and like their road system and like how they built things and all, that thing. I mean, I think now it's actually harder than ever to be an artist, especially, I mean, if you are kind of rolling around, what I've learned kind of over the years, it's one thing to like, and I've heard Les Claypool from Primus talk about this too, where he's like, it's one thing to like get to the top and to where you're playing arenas, but it is a whole nother thing to stay there. That is a very tiny percentage of the population or of artists out there that can get to those arenas and sheds and continue for their career. I mean, there's not many.
Yeah.
If you think about it. And he said that the sweet spot for him is about 2,000. If you can hit average 2,000 people a night, that is, like you're selling good merch, and merch can make or break a tour. And you're enough that you can travel so you can travel comfortably. So you can have tour buses and everyone gets their own hotel rooms and things like that. But at the end of the day, being a musician, especially at this kind of like that and below, it's a blue collar job. Really at the end of the day, I mean, they're not making millions of dollars playing 500,000, 2,000 cap rooms.
And that's who I really looked up to when I was in high school wanting to be in a band, was just, like Led Zeppelin and like Metallica, like the very few bands that, I mean, just, Rolling Stones that have sustained for 4 or 5 decades at the top of their game, still releasing music, still selling out stadiums in their 70s. So it's, very rare air to breathe.
And even now more so, like a lot of those acts had hit records, that they were getting royalties on. Well, now no one buys music. So it's either you tour, you sell merch, or you license your music, because you're not making crap off streaming. So, it's hard. That's why you're seeing too. I remember I had I don't know if I talked to you guys about that, but on the call, but I had a artist come to town, and he got, we were almost sold out, and then suddenly the management's like, we just got sponsored by Monster, and we got to change all the art to like, and then this is the verbiage. It's like, oh, the new art, this tour is now being sponsored by Monster, and I come from an era that if you got corporate sponsorship, you're done. Your fans hate you. You're a corporate sellout, right?
That's another thing.
You're a corporate sellout, like, and that is not what happened when we announced it. There's now this change where people think that being acknowledged by corporations is like something to be proud of or something like that, but like corporations aren't cool. So it's kind of an interesting thing on like how that's changed on how, but I get it too, because artists need to make money.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and it's like, and if, you know, I remember a friend of mine said, he got like Kia. They're a small band out of San Diego, vocab company. He's like, we got like, I don't remember the exact amount. He was like, that was huge for us. You know, that's huge. Like, cause a lot of these sponsorship or these licensing deals can be like, you know, anywhere $10, $20, $100,000, you know, for these acts. And when you're a small band struggling to make it, that's massive. And it's really hard to not, you know, say that. I back in the day, there was I'm a big Fish fan, and the band Snapple, or the brand Snapple came to Fish to try and buy their song Sample in a Jar to make a commercial called Snapple in a Jar. And they're like, we almost took it, but of course they were joking because they knew that would have been the end of that.
Sure. Yeah. Although Primus did South Park. I don't know if you've ever heard of Les Claypool talk about it, but
it's amazing. Yes,
and he's like, because he was like, yeah, I'll do this little intro for this little cartoon. And he's like, yeah, it paid off my daughter's college.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. And he talked about how they brought him, how he recorded it, and then they were like, actually, can you re-record it? And he's like, excuse me? He's like, I'm a huge musician. You're a like college kid in Colorado. You're asking me after I just did something out of the goodness of my heart to re-record it. It was great. Did you watch the South Park 25th anniversary concert from Red Rocks? Oh, it was amazing. I love Ween.
Man.
Too. Ween is one of my favorite bands of all time. So to see Ween and Primus on stage, and then all those amazing songs being played and sung by all the cast members of South, was just incredible. It was that to me was the show of the year.
Yeah,
that was the show of the year.
Actually, that just kind of jogged my memory when you said Red Rocks, and the other question that the other thing I was talking about earlier, but like another reason for the live stream event that we had here was just because, have you ever heard of like House of Strombo or Tame Impala played like this live like in this this beach house, like, you know, audience-less, just live stream show. And then there's of course like NPR Tiny Desk concert, and that's like another reason, like another thing that was jogging on my mind was, you know, Reno doesn't have like Red Rocks, they don't have oh my gosh,
the Gorge.
like
an
Gorge.
iconic outdoor venue.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we thought, okay, well, live stream. Like, what if we had, you know, Reno has a lot of like historic buildings. It has a lot of cool, just indoor places where you can make like a live stream event that goes viral outside of Reno. Like, extend your reach. If we don't have the population here in Reno, extend your reach.
Somebody did that with Rising Appalachia, and I've seen a couple of things up in Tahoe where they would go up to this peak and record something, which was really cool. But yeah, I think that I really wish that we could create a Red Rocks style place here in Reno. You know, like I love the. Have you been to the Robert Z. Hawkins Amphitheater?
By Bartley?
Yes.
I have not. I've heard it's
that
great.
Venue. I love that venue. It's one of my favorite venues. I saw one of my favorite concerts of all time, David Byrne from the Talking Heads there back in like 05. It's amazing. I've done a few shows there.
Ziggy Marley? Or who's Bob Marley's nephew? Not
Was
Ziggy.
it Julian Marley playing there?
I think he played since we've started promoting
Stephen
Reno
Marley,
Live.
maybe?
Yeah, Stephen Marley. I think he was last year.
Yeah.
Every year they seem to have like one really good show.
It's
over
tough
there.
because Art Town takes the entire month of July, and I think it's Sierra Arts takes the entire month of August.
Okay.
And so nobody
And
can
we have
do
a
shows
limited
during that time period.
outdoor frame.
Yeah,
with
I mean,
our
it's
climate.
very risky to do, in my opinion, anything outdoors after October 1st and before May
and before
31st.
May. Yeah.
I wonder if, going back to being a sellout,
I'm trying to sell out just so you know, I'm just kidding. I don't actually hate it anymore.
No, but back when record labels and getting a record deal was the way that people made it, that's not the case anymore.
And it even
so,
wasn't the case then, really, at the end of the day.
Understood,
you tried,
but that was the visual.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if a corporate sponsorship is sort of taken that place where it's like, oh, you made it, you know? And so maybe that's why there's been a shift in people not caring so much about the corporate sponsorship or like being happy for someone because Monster got involved.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I also think too, you know, you have to, another side of that is that the people that are making the decisions and that are working in the marketing department and sponsorship departments are cool and into music. So then they go and they reach out to these artists as well. And then they decide to take it or not, you know?
Right.
Because, you know, working in the festivals that I work at, there's tons of like crazy corporate sponsors because they're gigantic, you know, 47, 50,000 person festivals. And, you know, the reality is people don't like their presence, but at the same time, it's like the festivals would not really exist in the same way without them.
Sure.
You know,
do you think festivals and then all age shows are going to be key for the next generation?
Festivals, big camping festivals, no. All ages, yes. Something I think was going to have to change with the festivals, because it's going to either, in my opinion, decades or down the road, or maybe sooner, probably not. It's going to be just small, really small gatherings, small festivals, but the out of the way camping, multi-day, super expensive. I mean, it's just the production costs of those things are insanely high. The weed industry, kind of like the recreational like legalization, really took it was a big hit on the West Coast festival scene, but even kind of everywhere it affected it. And I just, you know, it's, you know, a lot of people are just kind of like getting out of the camping thing, and the people that grew up going to festivals are aging out and they don't want to sleep in a hot tent in a field. So I feel like maybe the shift is going to head a little bit more towards city festivals.
Okay.
You know, in city
like something
events.
that the Jay's been doing this summer.
Yes, or like Offbeat, or you know, Life is Beautiful, you know, and a myriad of different city festivals around the world. That's, you know, that's kind of like that. A city is going to be the one that's kind of be taking the brunt of it, or organizing it, or helping out with it, or being able to like utilize, you know, their infrastructure, having the promoter help, you know, helping the promoter out.
Do you see places like Coachella like still thriving and surviving in the future, or are they going to be taking kind of a big hit?
I wouldn't be surprised if it moved back to one weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have no idea. Yeah. I don't know any of their finances or anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if they went back to one weekend. You know, we just like when we talk about that cyclical nature, you know, and like I went to Coachella in 07, 08 when it was one weekend, and it was like exploded. Both weekends sold out immediately, and then it came down. It's like, oh, well, maybe now one weekend isn't selling out immediately, and then eventually did. And then it goes a little bit farther. Now one weekend isn't selling out at all, and then the other one is. And then, oh, we are maybe just pretending like the first weekend is sold out to send more people to the second weekend. Did that happen? I don't know exactly, but I know that has happened to other festivals.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, we're also seeing like more and more issues with weather, climates change, you know, like for 10, 15 years, we weren't seeing rainouts and cancellations and things like that, like we do now. So, you know, I think that can be a thing too. I started noticing that bands I can't say this as a general rule, but like, for example, some bands that used to just go out on these shed, like amphitheater tours, they're mixing it up now where they're doing some amphitheaters, some arenas in the middle of the summer, which they would never do that before. It would just be straight amphitheaters. But with rain and lightning and all these things and more cancellations and all this stuff going on, I think that's just the nature of the business. It's safer to plan a huge tour if you're going to do it, you know, and putting some arenas in there, because that, you know, lightning's not going to affect that.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to open it up to you. Things that you're involved in, things you want to promote. Yeah. Tell us about some of the things you have going on.
All right. Well, I think I might have said this before, maybe not, but like, there's really no like full-time music promoters in Reno, and I am one of those non-full-time music promoters. I also work for Electric Forest Festival, which is an amazing festival in Michigan, and then Lost Lands Festival, which is another amazing festival in Ohio that's like prehistoric dinosaur-themed dubstep festival. And with what I do there is I do a lot of, when we talk earlier about fan engagement and getting people involved, which helps build community. And that's what I do at those places. We have these programs that, whether it be a workshop or an art installation or a remix or various different programs that we do. We have a women's camping area. We do women's programming, basically all these different ways for the fans to apply to get involved in the festival. So they actually make a lot of the decisions on the content as far as like what the workshops we're going to present are. Some of which have people that it's the first time they've ever taught a workshop in their life. And it's just something that they're super passionate about. We've had people that applied for and won our art installation program who are now working for T-Pain and have had their fabrications on all major festival stages and touring around the world. It's really cool mentorship, kind of like springing off situation for people. And that's a really, really great thing to get involved with, because in a lot of this world, it can be a lot of, in the music industry, generally speaking, there can be, you're like fighting a lot, you're like fighting over like, who's going to, like, I want to pay this more, I don't want to pay that, whatever. But like my emails for that with the fans are generally thank yous, which is like really nice for a sensitive guy like me. And then I do like, I throw their Pride event and a lot of the other kind of fan activations with some great groups called the Instigators, and doing really cool things with Blackthorn Productions. And then I also am the booking agent for the world's #1 bingo caller. So the Great Bingo Revival is based out of Alpine Meadows, and he asked me about 8 years ago to be his booking agent, and I was like, okay, tell me about this, okay, because I knew him, but I had never seen his show, and I was like, all right, well, I think I can help you. And then the first gig I booked for him, I played and I won. So I think that was a great sign. And I'm really competitive. So I did like 2 victory laps. And then what's gone on with that is just bananas. We just went to Antarctica and did bingo on an expedition cruise to Antarctica. We've done gigs with the Jonas Brothers and Google and Salesforce and all these major music festivals, and we do all these like private events and like kind of like 1%er country clubs and stuff. And so that has been a wild ride. He's a full-time bingo caller, and it's amazing. And my favorite thing, there's a lot of favorite things I like about that job, but they say thank you a lot, which is like means a lot to me. And then as far as like locally, I said earlier, I like to be part of teams to do things. I'm involved in the Northern Nevada Pride, which is a really great event. That's going to be happening September 6th. Saturday, September 6th in Midtown. It's moving to Midtown because Wingfield Park is closed for a couple years. And then Offbeat Fest. I started working with them last year. That event is amazing. They moved it down to 4th Street out of Midtown. So it's like 8 venues. One wristband gets you into 8 venues over 2 days. And every band you see is phenomenal. You may not know them. It's very much a discovery music festival. You may not know them, but you're going to be blown away by them. And we have great headliners for that. But then it's also just like all these different amazing local, about 30% of our lineup's local. And then the rest is from sometimes, around the world. And that's going to be happening October 2nd through 4th down on 4th Street. There's actually going to be this year too, we're closing the street down to do a free street fair element as well, which is going to be like a block party. And then moving on into the winter is Western Lights Illuminated Arts Festival, which will be coming back for our 2nd year. It'll be probably 50, 60 illuminated sculptures spread throughout downtown. It's free to the public. We have at least 3 stages of music. One, the Illuminate stage, is all live music, and then we have a couple electronic music, art cars, and we had the Richter Shaw, and really family friendly. I mean, that place was like, we were expecting around 25, 30,000, and we had 61,000 people show up.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And just to see like all these kids engaging with the art, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff that like people like, you know, we have all that great art that goes out to Burning Man, but it's so gate kept mainly kind of by price more than anything. So being able to have people down and be able to engage with all this really amazing art, some of which came from, that was, you know, we worked with artists that were at Electric Forest, people from out east, Burning Man, people that were touring their piece on the way to be installed in Las Vegas. So yeah, that's kind of like the next big three big next events that I'm working on that I'm really excited for.
I did want to just thank you for what you do.
Yes.
Especially, like I said, having everyone that we have in here mention you and
Thanks.
and
thank you guys.
You are the guy.
No, being such a big part of multiple genres and really just giving Reno a spark that I think it really needs. So I appreciate everything that you do for the city and the music.
I appreciate that. I think I was like, it's just I kind of feel like I just was at the right place at the right time and rode this kind of wave. If I wasn't here, I think somebody else probably would have done it. Would they have done the same as me? Probably not. I honestly kind of copied Fish's business model of just being kind to people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, not just looking at every human, be like, you know, people deserve to be in comfortable spots and looked out for and things like that. And trying to keep things as cheap as possible for them and everything. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. I thank you, and thank you all very much.
Well, when all is said is done and I'm on my deathbed, I think all I really want is to be to Reno as Bill Graham was to San Francisco.
Right.
And I feel like you're already there. So we got a lot of work to do.
All right. Well, I don't want to die in a plane crash or a helicopter crash, please.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you all
and
so
giving
much for
your
having me.
share.
It was super fun.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks.